Alright, so we're on to chapter 24. Not much happened in 23. We know there's a key involved and that Jazz can travel outside of her body. Um, Someone major yelled underground in her head, so now she's going underground. Hopefully something interesting happens. I'm only going to read chapter 24 because 25 is a bit long, so it's going to be a short one. I fell into a pit, the symbolic significance of which did not escape me. Lit by flaming torches, painted by their smoke, the pit easily measured 4 times the width and the length of the wine cellar standing above it. Uneven stacks of floor-to-ceiling stones impeded the view, so you could never see more than a quarter of it at once. The walls were as crooked as the load-bearing columns, as if some enormous mole had been snacking on various sections, leaving shallow caverns and outcroppings in its wake. That doesn't sound very up to code there. I drifted around the pit's perimeter, hugging the jagged wall like an amateur skater. Wouldn't she kind of go through the wall? The floor beneath my non feet looked muddy, and steaming pools of viscous liquid made me wonder just what a good CSI would discover given the right chemicals. In one corner, a bona fide stream trickled through a gap in the wall and exited by a basin that could have been 20 feet deep for all its blank black surface revealed. In another corner I discovered portable metal stairs that led up to a door in the ceiling. A quick check confirmed that it opened to the wine cellar, though it was hidden by the rug that lay beneath the tasting table. About halfway between the stream basin and the stair, a folding table leaned against the wall. It reminded me of the church buffet suppers Granny May had dragged us kids to on alternating Sunday nights during our summer visits. 8 devoted parishioners could have used it comfortably, or perhaps not so comfortably after all. The dried stains on the tabletop looked a lot more like blood than beef gravy. The occupants of the pit stood in groups of 2 or 3, wearing basic black, as if they meant to attend a highbrow cocktail party after the festivities ended here. I counted 13 altogether, none of whom I recognized as major players. Disappointed that Bozowski, Aiden, and Asan, not to mention Derek and Liliana, were haunting some other pit. Part of Miami. I continued my exploration. Still hugging the wall, I moved toward the part of the room furthest from the stairs. I saw her before she saw me, and though I withdrew into a shallow alcove, I knew she would not miss me once she knew what to look for. The Toril Dagan viewed the world through cold, dead eyes, making me feel like a deer forced to drink from crocodile-infested waters. Do deers drink from crocodile-infested waters? Irises the color of gangrene swam in pus-hued sclera. I don't know what that is. Making any of the acolytes they rested on shudder and back up a step. I'm not sure I'd have held my ground either, and I could understand why no picture of her existed in Cassandra's old books. She was just plain hard to see. It could have been a trick of the lighting, the rise and fall of frame throwing odd shadows, so that all you got were confusing snapshots, none of which revealed an entire picture. After the eyes, I didn't expect to glimpse an ounce of beauty in the beast, but there was a finely sculpted cheekbone, and there the smooth curve of a shoulder. But I couldn't blame the fizzle fade the Tor did next on the torches. I blinked, squeezed my eyes shut before I remembered they weren't physical orbs at the moment. Must be tough existing in a couple of different planes at once. I thought as she gained enough definition that I could make out a foot. Make that a big hairy claw. Definitely hard on the posture, too. She seemed to hunch as if to protect something she held close, though I couldn't tell what it might be since she wore a dark, voluminous gown that hid a great deal. Then she turned her head, and I saw the webbed tissue that connected her neck to something even larger that squirmed, underneath the material that covered her back. I still have no fucking idea what this thing looks like. Again the Toril Dagan began to fade, taking on the translucence of fine Japanese paper. She turned her head toward the waiting crowd, which immediately began to chant and sway, reminding me of the snake charmers I'd seen on Discovery Channel specials. 3 women, all in their late 30s, all prematurely gray, stepped forward. They kept their backs to the crowd as they knelt on the floor, their knees sinking a good inch in the muck. The rest of the group formed a semicircle behind them and fell on their knees as well. The bottom third of their pants darkened as the cloth soaked up the mystery soup that covered the floor. I tried to figure out its ingredients. Granny May's strident voice popped into my head. Well, that'll never come out, not even with bleach. Frankly, I was glad to hear her. This whole scene gave me the willies, mostly because I figured my sacrifice was going to be part of the big finish. We're almost done, we're almost done, we're almost done. We can do this. The Tour's eyes swiveled in their sockets as she opened her mouth so wide her jaw came unhinged with an audible pop. Enormous fangs descended from the pointed teeth surrounding them, and she spit thick white goo at the watchers, making them cringe and retreat, though they continued to chant. When the Tour whipped her head sideways and slammed those teeth into the wall, the power... What? Then the Tour whipped her head sideways and slammed those teeth into the wall. The power she might soon unleash became clear as she took a bite out of the trembling earth, leaving ugly black scars in her wake. As soon as she began to chew, she solidified, and I realized how she'd managed to survive this day for so long. Not only did she gain sustenance from unwilling souls, but she fed on the earth as well. Assuming our Native Americans were right, some of the earth spirit entered her that way, providing even more nourishment. Though I didn't throw trash on the ground, I have been known to recycle a soda can or two. I'd never thought of myself as an environmentalist until that moment, when all I could see were the scars she left in her steady consumption of the good earth. That's enough, I thought. That's all I need to see. That's all I want to see. I rushed back to my body and found it where I'd left it. It's still blinking and breathing, still alone. Out the window I flew, my phantom heart skipping a beat when I discovered the cords connecting me with everyone who mattered in my life now visibly faded. A hushed octet drawn from the original magnificent orchestra. Urgency moved me to new speeds, and I reached the van within 30 seconds. Bill jumped in his seat when I dropped through the roof, landing on, or rather in, Cassandra's lap. Muttering a quick apology, I withdrew to my former spot where Bill informed Bergman and Cole that I had joined them. "They've started the ceremony," I said. "It's happening below the basement of Club and Dead." Vale slammed on the brakes, and I suddenly found myself perched on the hood of the van as it slid to a stop inches from the back bumper of a dirty green station wagon. Just ahead of us, a four-car pileup jammed the street. It must have just happened because all the drivers involved still sat in their cars, and no cops were in sight. What? I moved over to Vale's side of the van, standing beside his window as if I really had feet, and told him what I'd seen. "Damn it, Vale, never swore. Never." I guess that's when I knew how much he cared. He jerked the van into reverse, but braked hard again as he realized the parade of minivans hadn't blocked in. He shoved the van into park and let it idle. "This is going to take some time. Go back to your body and stall them." "What? Vale, this is not a basketball game. I can't go in there and eat the clock, because when the buzzer sounds, the whole top floor explodes." "You have to do this, Jasmine. We will be there as soon as I can convince these drivers to move." "How are you going to know where to find me?" "Give me directions." So I did along with my last excuse. "I don't want to go. What if the monster eats my soul?" I sounded like a 3-year-old cowering into the covers, because we all know what sleeps under the bed. But I was scared, more even than I'd been the night in West Virginia, when I'd been young and dumb enough to believe I could survive anything. Bill stared into my eyes, willing me to believe him. "It will not, and if it does, we will hang it by the ankles and thump it on this back until it coughs you up." I smiled only because he meant for me to "Hurry, Vale. I don't want to die again." I swooped into the air and stalled almost immediately. Only 4 of the 7 cords remained, and I had to strain to see them. I picked mine out as the only one leading away from the van and sped along its length, strumming it like a single guitar string, forcing the music to send its faint melody into the cosmos. The cord disappeared entirely as I entered Club Dead, and the prickles at the back of my gnawed neck reminded me I could still feel enormous fear despite my lack of adrenal glands. I slipped into the attic, the scene inside my body's temporary abode striking me as both comical and desperate. There I sat, draped halfway off the chair. Unconscious and barely breathing, according to Azan's hysterical assessment, while Aiden crouched before me, his head and forearms under the chair, his back supporting my legs as he tinkered with the bomb. Apparently the remote shut-off wasn't 100% reliable. Not a comforting thought. Azan pressed the shaking fingers of one hand to my carotid, while he checked my pupils with the other. "She's dying," he yelled. "How could she be dying? Silence, you imbecile. I'm trying to disarm this bomb." Aiden's spirited reply jiggled my body so that my legs slipped off his back, my feet thumping to the floor to one side of him, as my butt slid completely off the seat to land between his shoulders. Azan shrieked like a schoolgirl as my weight shifted. "Get it! Got it!" shouted Aiden. "Now get her off me!" "It's time. I know it's time. Why am I so reluctant to enter my body?" I looked up, imagining the stars twinkling in the night sky, with my guide driving a black Jeep Cherokee between them, singing his own special rendition of "When You Wish Upon a Star." A big part of me yearned for that sort of freedom. Someday, I promised myself, I'll have that when the price isn't so high. Letting go of my hesitation, I slid back into myself, trying to be gentle, unobtrusive even. Still, the rejoining hurt like a full-bodied Charlie horse. I woke up screaming, startling my captors so much that they screamed as well. Sorry. I have in my head a picture. Oh God, no, never mind. Aiden lurched to his feet, sending me tumbling into a pile of boxes. I laid there a second, stunned and sore, until Hassan grabbed my arms and yanked me to my feet. The sword he wore banging against my shins. Sword? I thought weird. And then, holy crap, he means to carve me with runes. Bitch, he squealed, spraying my cheeks with a fine mist as the eyes blazed. What did you do? What did you do? This is so stupid. I wiped my face and straightened my clothing. I kept my word, I said, feeling too depressed, too bereft to even consider belting him. I'd gotten my body back, for Cripe's sake. Why the sense of loss? It overrode everything, even the anger I should be feeling at being chastised by this rotten little man with his pruny little soul. And then there was Aiden, who made me understand exactly how Bill had felt when he found his sons dead. I wanted him to die, oh yeah, but slowly and oh so painfully. Didn't I? Even that rage could not seem to overcome this terrible grief. I hoped I hadn't left it behind. I wanted so badly to release it, and now I wondered if I'd be able to muster it in time to ensure survival tonight. If I couldn't, I hope it became a little black rain cloud that hovered over these two freaks the rest of their days, sending out hailstones and lightning bolts in inopportune moments. Hassan shoved me toward the door and I stumbled. Aiden caught me, kept me from falling. Enough, he snapped, glaring at his colleague. We do not need to break her neck on the eve of our triumph. What did you say? I jerked myself out of his grasp. My momentary grief burned away by the heat of a fury so sudden and searing I could barely breathe past it. Jasmine! Bill's voice buzzed distant in my ear. What is wrong? I've never sensed such anger in you. How many people have you bled out, Aiden? I demanded, my self-control beginning to shear away beneath the force of my feelings. How many necks have you broken? Don't play gentleman with me. I know better. What? Jasmine. God, Jasmine, get a hold of yourself. Bill's advice held no more impact than a whisper, but I did hear him. Oh yeah, I'll get a hold of something. I grabbed Aiden by the lapels of his Armani jacket. Whatever he saw in my face made his eyes go wide. Hassan grabbed my left arm, but I knew I could take them. A simple twist and push would put my hand at Hassan's throat, leaving the other free to tear Aiden's head off, after which I would punt it against the wall, repeatedly. Not yet. It wasn't a voice in my head, not really, just a silvery bolt of reason that started as Sirili and shot straight into my brain. I dropped my hand as the door flew open and a couple of Hassan's goons trooped in. What are you doing here? Snapped Aiden. You're supposed to be policing the exits. We're stealing them any minute now. One man, whose hair was the color and consistency of motor oil, spoke up. Liliana has been watching the monitors. She told us you needed help. Hassan snorted and let go of my arm. Hardly. Aiden ran both hands through his hair. Stick to the plan, people. You too. He jabbed 2 fingers at motor oil and his smaller and greasier pal. Back to the exits. Liliana, Derek, he addressed the vent in the wall, which apparently had a camera. You should have been downstairs with the senators 15 minutes ago. Now move. The goons scurried to obey us. The goons scurried to obey, as I imagined did Liliana and Derek. That goes for you too, Aiden told me, his entire demeanor a Kodak moment in badly disguised wariness. Sure, I gave him a Lucille Robinson shrug, knowing that Jazz must be bottled right along with her rage if we're going to pull this off. Knowing also that when the lead came off, payback would be a bitch. Almost done, guys. Almost done.